I've discovered how UVS plans to stop your early aggressive deck, and I'm here to tell you how they're doing it. The meta in Universus always seems to be so diverse. The tournaments have always seemed to have a wide range of characters, from pet decks to people playing their favorite characters, and then of course you have your tryhards looking to walk away with the complete win, no matter what level of event, from your local event to the world to worlds. You'll have people playing their pet deck, and you'll have people playing the hyper meta decks. In recent years, the hyper meta decks have been early aggressive string decks, from Tokuyami to Ojiro 2, all the way to Younger Toguro, Mirio, Godzilla, Mimic, Berthold 2. These are all mid-range to very aggressive decks that are just looking to string and keep punching, and have caused the significant turns of the game to be the second and third of your turns. And if it isn't, the games can kind of drag on for a very long time. But now, for over a year, UVS have been telling us they want to move the key turns, the kill turns, from the second and third turn to more along the fifth, sixth, or even as early as fourth. And for players that are looking to build their Rube Goldberg sort of machines of death, it gives them more time to kind of prep that, but they don't want games to also go the first game being 50 minutes. How does UVS plan to make your Universus games extend a little bit further? Have those key turns move over? I've been watching the upcoming sets, I've been looking at the numbers, I've been listening to the conversations and what staff have been saying in articles, as well as what the community has been saying. And I am here to tell you what UVS is doing and has already started doing. A little bit under the radar, I've noticed a couple of people bring it up in recent videos of other people, but no one's really talking about it. So let's break down this glass, let's shatter the conceptions that people have had, and let's show you what has been happening under our very nose essentially since the rebrand. So when we were told that the game needed to be a little bit longer, the game didn't need to slow down to the point where we're looking at the Eraserhead 1 overhaul control matches, which were going on 3 hours back in the day. But games need to not be ended on turn 2, turn 3. They need to go to more the 4, 5, 6 kind of turns. The community thought we'd see more block matters cards, more early punishment, more cards like learning the standard, teleportation stone, where we were going to be seeing things that clogged carpools. Runaway was a great one. We we're going to see more block matters breaker effects, similar to Showdown, which we haven't really seen. Even Deflect has kind of tapered off a little bit, which is kind of a weird one. I do like Deflect, don't get me wrong. It's a great way to protect our backups, but there hasn't been any new ability kind of introduced. There's been no significant change that has caught my eye to show that the game is slowing down. Even reprinting something like Reversal, where we get to apply pressure in our opponent's turn, go, I'm going to make it easier to kill you on your next turn, so you need to have a defensive aspect, or card pool clogging through blocking my attacks on Reversal. But then again, I can huff copium about Reversal for days. Defensive synergies and deadlock threats are on a kind of decline. I don't think anyone's really felt a shift into what's being printed in terms of defensive abilities. In offensive abilities, similarly, we've now seen things like Falling Titans and ways to blow up our opponent's board and keep their foundations low so we can be more aggressive. But defensively, I don't think we've seen anything that can hyper build, that can be hyper defensive. We have had things like Brief Respite and Desperate Plea. It's more replacing things that we lost in rotation than adding new defensive pieces that matter. One of the things that has been done, which people have noticed that have slowed the game down a little bit, is we're no longer seeing as many string decks. When we see things like Smiling Titan or Nathan James's Reiner, we're looking at these 4-check attacks that have a high cost and high impact, but you don't get to play as many of them without sacrificing your defensive capability, because no matter what, you're committing foundations to pass this check. This means that games go a little bit longer, and that kills that should have been coming turn 2, turn 3 happen a little bit later down because you need more resources to pop them off, allowing your opponent more time to generate a defensive build. And because they all come with a 4 check, it essentially knocks 1 difficulty off all your foundations and non-attacks because your minimum check has increased. A 3 diff foundation is more like a 2 diff foundation in this deck, because you can play it as your 3rd card and know you're going to pass it, because checking a 4 is a guarantee. That being said, more card pool clog. We have seen things like June is very good. And again, I would like to just point out, I'd be remiss if I did not add more delusion to the fact that I want Drive to be a reversal effect. But let's circle quickly back to the 4 check attacks. As I said, it gives your foundations a pseudo -1 difficulty as your lowest check has been increased. And unlike a super aggressive deck where you're playing lots of 1s and 0s to allow you to build out quickly, this means you can play lots of 2s and 1s because you can check the 4s more consistently, build faster, because you need to have more foundations to play a lot of these attacks. But that is also what I would like to talk about. When we were with the Heroes Clash era and the Crimson Rampage era, we had a lot of 0s that we could build in very quickly, and we could see basic trainings, surviving the finals, easily excited, coming in, and you can see these 5, 6, 7 builds consistently in the 4 check decks. There's an issue with that now. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about, and the main thing I kind of want to talk about, is Universus is giving 0 difficulty foundations a power regression. 0 difficulty foundations have always been a staple of aggressive decks. They're low cost foundations that are spam foundations. You throw them in, you can build them out quite quickly, and if you check well, you can essentially just have a very aggressive, strong early turn build. And they can also be paired with some very powerful abilities. Looking at MHA set 1 back in 2021-2022, there was 8 0 difficulty foundations and 2 in the Bakugo Deku starter decks, and they were some of the most powerful foundations that we have seen to date, with things like Release, Requesting Assistance, Stronger in Darkness, even a witch getting banned. It Can't Be Fixed, which was a staple of its symbol. Then when we move into Crimson Rampage, we see things like Surviving the Final, which was a staple on its symbols for consistent speed reduction, Floating on My Babies allowing for sculpting and damage increase, and Internship with Best Genius, which was played in quite a few niche decks along with Battle Resolve. But then we see another power creep in 0 diffs in Heroes Clash with basic training. Easily excited. These were very powerful 0 diffs. And then in Undaunted Raid, we got things like Keeping Eri Safe, which was a spiritual reprint of It Can't Be Fixed. But when we get to Jetburn, we start to see a bit of a regression in power. Surprising Scale is great, but it is not It Can't Be Fixed, and it is not Keeping Eri Safe. They're all very niche. They've all got very specific abilities for the 0 diffs in Jetburn, except for One Man Inferno. That's a bit of an outlier. They kind of snuck that under the radar. Challengers brought us back very powerful 0 diffs with Syndicate Target, but that's a reprint of an older one. Yu Yu Hakusho brought Botan's Coaching, a nerfed version of Voice of Reason, and Critical Role brought Hostile Introductions, which isn't the best, but now we've got more Mighty Nines. That breaker is a lot more playable, and the Mimics and Casino decks loved to burn you for an additional 1 quite quickly. So 0 diffs have always had this kind of impact, and kind of always will. Or will they? Because when we get to Attack on Titan Battle for Humanity, we get 6 0 diffs. All blank cards, 1 for each symbol that do nothing. And that's a bit weird. And it's something that a lot of people up, and it did start to contribute towards Ryuku's downfall, because having access to a lot of blank stuff meant that she got errated. And then before that, we had the Godzilla challenges, which had had similar damage reductions and damage increases, but on flip cards. Essentially had a basic training, but you had to flip rather than getting it just once per turn as a response speed. Then we kind of move along and we get to the Deku Dark Hero My Hero Academia Champion Challenge deck, which had no zero diff. And we get to Oranges of Power, which had no zero diff. Then we get on to Star Trek Lower decks, which had zero diffs, but they were character locked almost. They had the Ensign, they had the Beckett, they were locked into what the characters that were there were playing them. Critical Role Heroes of Alexandria, no zero diffs. In Foundations, you had Questboard, which was an asset. And now in Attack on Titan Apocalypse, we have one zero diff universal blank foundation. And this is where they're going. This is where UVS are looking to turn us away or dampen ultra aggressive strategies. They're targeting zero diff foundations. They're still going to give us them, but they're not going to be impactful. They're not going to have abilities. It's essentially just going to be the same as playing blank foundations or one use foundations that can have a ability that might keep you alive or might do some win more, kind of like +1 damage, +1 speed. I don't think we're going to see Botan's coaching back. I don't think we're going to see It Can't Be Fixed back. I don't think we're going to see these very impactful zero diffs as zero diffs anymore. They might their effects might come back as 1 diff, 2 diff, 3 diff, but we're not going to see them come back again at a zero diff. We're not going to see the heyday of spam foundations. This is how they're going to stop aggression. Making players more reliant, making people have to play more 1 diffs, 2 diffs, 3 diffs is going to decrease the initial build. People may still get lucky, and people playing the 48X are still going to be able to build quite a lot. But your ponies, as the game goes on, as these zero diffs filter and rotate away, their build becomes a lot less consistent. They're not 1 free check, and you're walking away with a 2 build or a 3 build, and you're having to spend more time building and maintaining your defenses. You can't just go nuts aggressive out the gate because you don't have these zero diffs you can spam. And if you're looking to play the zero diffs you can spam, you're not getting any benefit from them. You're not progressing your game state, you're not progressing your win condition or your loss condition or your defense. You're just playing these low impact zero diff foundations that are going to allow you to attack earlier, but they're not going to allow you to make your attacks more impactful. And this is what I mean by zero diffs are going through a power regression. The evidence to clear this, and it's not going to be something that happens quickly. Attack on Titan rotates at the same time as Yu Hakusho, so it's not going to be as impactful. But 2, 3, 4 years down the line, we are going to see a shift in how the game is played. We're not going to have as many spam foundations. Those spam foundations are not going to be anywhere near as impactful. If anything, they may come with even more drawbacks for their abilities if they have them. It's going to be a situation of, if you want to be aggressive, if you want to string, if you want to push and early aggress, then your foundations will not be as impactful to help you get there. Whereas control players, mid-range players, defensive players that take a couple of turns to build, do a little bit of cheeky poking, and kind of push the envelope a little bit further out in terms of what they're looking to do, and let the game last a little bit longer, will be rewarded for it because they can play more high difficulty foundations with stronger abilities that, yes, they may get run over a couple of times, but they're going to have longer, more interactive games by letting themselves build out more. I think this is going to lead to a healthier baseline for zero diff foundations. I think these zero difficulty foundations have been very powerful for a very long time, and it has aided hyper aggressive decks. I think pulling them back, taking away breakers, putting on the +3, +2 block modifiers, making them simple spam foundations, these blank foundations that are just there if you want to try and push aggressively or have a few in your deck so you can try and build a little bit more when you draw them, is actually quite healthy. I think this is a very nuanced approach UVS are taking, and the design team are they're not highlighting it, they're not promoting it, they're not going, look at what we're doing. They've left it to us, the players, to see this. It's a great way to punish greed. It's a great way to go. If you want to be aggressive, if you want to build greedily, you will take punishment for this in your abilities. Whereas players who build 3, build 4, then next turn build 3, build 4, get rewarded for patience, for wanting the interactions, for letting the game go a little bit longer. They can get a little bit more rewarded. And if you compare that in with things like drive, with reversal, with breakers, with card pool clog, you're going to see this hyper aggressive line start to fade, and we're going to get more into a more mid-range game where you're going to last a little bit longer, you're going to have more fun, and you're going to have more interactions. So there it is. That is my theory. That is what I think is happening. UVS is power regressing zero Diff Foundations to the point where they are going to be blank basic spam foundations, or have very basic abilities with a flip commit kind of cost, to force aggressive players to either play blank or subpar cards to have that early aggression, or force them to build out a little bit slower and have their aggression take place on later turns. For me, it's a great start, but is it enough? Let me know what you think. Where else would you like to see cards getting hit? Where else is there too much aggression? Is the game unhealthy? And is it kind of being pushed into the realms of unhealthiness? I think this is a great start. I think this is a great subtle thing that design are doing that not a lot of people have noticed, but some have, and fair play. Shout out to you guys that have been in the comments of other people's videos and my videos talking about the fact that zero diffs are disappearing. You're a huge inspiration for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What would you do to slow the game down, get that key kill turn to turn 3, turn 4, and should reversal come back? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you at game night.